Welcome to the Matt Sager Podcast, Thursday, November 29th. And I'm just going to go right ahead and rip the Band-Aid off, all right? I mean, I was going to soft soap it, say something along the lines of, hey, good news. Daredevil's first 3 seasons will be available for streaming on Netflix for years to come. But let's cut right to the headline, shall we? Daredevil, as I predicted in previous episodes of this podcast, and believe me, I take no joy in being correct here, but Daredevil is officially overdone kaput on Netflix. Season 3 is indeed the last season of Daredevil, and I would be surprised if it were otherwise. Not because it wasn't a great show, but because its returns have been dramatically diminishing. Each of these Marvel Netflix series, from season 1 to season 2, to if you're lucky and you're Daredevil, you get a season 3, the drop in viewership has been precipitous. Something to the effect of like 60% drop off each season. But I don't even think that that's why the shows are being canceled. The writing's been on the wall since Disney announced their upcoming streaming service. I mean, look, the Disney streaming service, which is coming in late 2019, it's already been announced that once it launches, Marvel's basically going to pull all their offerings from Netflix. Their movies, their shows. Captain Marvel's going to be the first Disney streaming service exclusive release, but the first of many. So already it was becoming problematic that Marvel and Netflix had a relationship with each other, mutually problematic, because for Netflix, they've got a bunch of these original series, which are typically considered to be premium, high quality, consistently high audience and high praise delivering shows. And Marvel was spotty. Whatever you think of the series, the simple fact that between seasons 1 and 2 of each of these shows, and season 3 for the shows that were lucky enough to have one, that huge drop in viewership, there was also a very uneven quality problem. My apologies to anyone who enjoyed it, but the Defenders, the culmination of all these miniseries, Iron Fist, Luke Cage, Daredevil, Jessica Jones, the climactic team-building exercise of all these shows, the sort of Netflix version of the Avengers, was deeply underwhelming, both in terms of audience and in terms of, just speaking as one of those audience members myself, I found it terribly dull. It was painful to watch, and Iron Fist was brutal to watch. Now, some of these other shows, there's a lot of missed opportunities here. All of these shows, with the exception of Iron Fist, began on the right foot. Daredevil Season 1, Jessica Jones Season 1, Luke Cage Season 1, these are all undeniably peak superhero TV. Iron Fist really poisoned the well. Season 1 was so awful. The character was simply miscast, poorly written. It was like, wow, how many bad decisions can we make across all levels of creativity, casting, writing, producing, set pieces? It was awful. And even if it wasn't the case that the Disney streaming service is about to premiere, and with it, a lot of Marvel and Disney and Star Wars properties will soon be exclusive to that platform, even if none of that were true, I don't think Netflix would want to continue with this experiment anymore, and I would understand why. Similarly, Marvel. They don't love to be associated with failed projects. You might have noticed that The Inhumans did not get a season 2, period. It may well have been profitable for them to have continued to air it, but it made them look bad. That the show had crummy ratings, was poorly reviewed. And again, sorry to Finn Jones, but Iron Fist really, the moment that show dropped, this entire Marvel Netflix experiment began to crumble. But it's not over yet. As I said, the good news is that Daredevil seasons 1 through 3, I liked 3 quite a bit. Not as much as I would have expected, but, it was okay. It deserved better than the poor ratings it got. But so those 3 seasons will continue to be available, and then I think this whole thing is just about done. Jessica Jones does have a season 3 coming, no official date, so it's not 100%, but it's likely. And I've only learned today that Punisher produced a season 2, but there's no word as to when or if that's going to air on Netflix. I would love to see these characters, these properties, and the really, really gifted performers behind them. Charlie Cox's Daredevil was amazing. Deborah Ann Wallace, Karen Page, spectacular. I would love to see them all make the transition to the Disney streaming service, and it's very possible that that'll happen. If that's the case, I would even say, look, Iron Fist was a failed experiment, but there's no reason why Finn Jones, under a new writer, new showrunner, couldn't give it another shot on the Disney streaming service. But my understanding is that Iron Fist seasons 1 and 2 will continue to be on Netflix for a while. Basically, all their Marvel series will continue to air, but the characters themselves will have moved on. It's interesting to speculate as to how different this could have gone, because there was a recent screening of Avengers Infinity War hosted by the Russo brothers, and one of the tidbits that leaked out from that event was that the brothers had seriously considered bringing in the Marvel Netflix Netflix heroes into this already massive, huge cast. And ultimately, they decided against it because they were already balancing out every Avenger, basically every Marvel character. I mean, my God. Thanos and his hordes, the Avengers, Spider-Man, Black Panther, like every Marvel character was already, it's amazing that they fit under that one film to begin with, to say nothing of the upcoming Avengers 4. And so there just wasn't a need, and in all likelihood, there wasn't even room for the addition of Jessica Jones, Punisher, Daredevil, Luke Cage, Iron Fist, and then to have to sort of explain via exposition or something to the cinematic audience that, okay, here's these superheroes, and here's why you haven't seen them in any movies. Do you have Netflix? You see what I'm saying? It becomes cumbersome. And it's a shame. As I said, this whole Marvel Netflix thing started out on such great footing. Daredevil Season 1 was phenomenal. Jessica Jones Season 1 was amazing. But I think it's right that it's ending. And frankly, my opinion doesn't matter because the Disney streaming service is on its way and it's just a done deal. It's a shame, though. It was only just under 2 weeks ago, November 16th, that Daredevil showrunner Eric Olson put together a whole pitch for Season 4 and came back and excitedly told anyone who would listen, I just had my big pitch meeting for Daredevil Season 4 at Netflix, and I think it's looking good. And so I'm sorry for all involved. It's never good when a show gets canceled, and these are good actors, good people who tried really, really hard, did something very cool and experimental, and it did not pan out this time, but the story's not over. As long as the Disney streaming service has yet to debut, it means the possibilities for these characters, these actors, writers, showrunners, producers, etc., the sky is still the limit as to where they can go. And so I hold out hope. Now, what I'm less hopeful about is my wallet and yours, as I've said many times on this podcast, that the streaming wars, you think there's an issue now with Amazon Prime, Netflix, Hulu. That's nothing. Next year, it's all going nuclear. There are going to be so many streaming options, and each one of them is going to be really focused on locking in exclusivity to compete, to essentially say, hey, why do you need Netflix? Why do you need Amazon Prime? Why would you bother with Hulu when you can get the Disney streaming service? The DC streaming service, DC Universe. If you love right-wing politics, Fox Nation launched Tuesday of this week, and it's just getting warmed up. Expect many more of these announcements to come, such as this one from today. AT&T, who acquired Warner Brothers earlier this year, is officially launching the Warner Media streaming platform, coming late in 2019, alongside the Disney streaming service and many others. It's going to have 3 tiers of membership, 3 tiers of programming. And of course, as with Netflix, each of these tiers is going to have a little bit of bonus content. Really diehard dedicated fans are, of course, going to have to go all the way to tier 3, which hopefully will at least be in line with the streaming services and the prices we're associated with now. For a year of Amazon Prime is, I think, $120. Hulu is something like $11 per month. Netflix is $13. Hopefully this stuff won't get too crazy. And hopefully platforms like Netflix and Hulu will be able to survive this. Because with Disney pulling all of their content, making it exclusive to the Disney streaming service, Warner now posed to do the same thing. Netflix is going to have to really step up its stable of original content if they want to compete and be as viable as they are today. These media giants, these media conglomerates, the greed is just unimaginable, and the amount of money they're going to be making is crazy, not the least of which is going to come from you and me. But a real precedent has been set here. Now Disney's done it, now Fox, now Warner. Each of these big studios, each of these big entertainment conglomerates, you should be prepared at any moment for, say, Cartoon Network. Well, that's part of Warner Brothers, but like Nickelodeon. Don't be shocked if there's a Nickelodeon streaming service and all their titles get yanked from Netflix, Amazon Prime, Hulu, and those platforms in turn are going to have to really, really step up all of their original programming. So if we all had money to burn, we'd all be winners here because it's just content everywhere. But by making everything exclusive and proprietary to their own platforms, it means that fans are going to have to make choices that were more difficult and more painful than they've been in the past. Like, do I want Netflix or do I want DC Universe and Warner Media's streaming service? And of course, the Disney streaming service. Can I afford all 3? Does Amazon Prime need to go as a result? It's all still very much an ongoing story, but one of greed and one that's going to end up costing us all a lot of money. Sony Pictures could have, hey, if you're a Spider-Man fan, if you love Spider-Man Homecoming, the upcoming Spider-Man Far From Home, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, don't be in the least bit surprised if you need to sign up for the Sony streaming service. And of course, if you're a big Spider-Man fan, that means you're already paying money to Disney for their streaming service. So yeah, all of these streaming platforms have a lot to worry about. be they the old guard like Netflix or the new guard like the upcoming Disney streaming service, there are a lot of factors at play. These new services have to establish themselves as necessary, because otherwise yanking their properties off of Netflix and Amazon Prime and Hulu is not going to make sense. So, for example, DC Universe. You can still watch DC movies on most of these other platforms I've discussed because DC Universe doesn't yet have a large subscriber base. Now, as that changes, expect your DC offerings on Netflix, etc., to really begin to dwindle and eventually vanish. And that's when we're going to have to make these difficult decisions, figure out how much we can budget into our entertainment, and proceed from there. Hopefully, we as viewers will come out ahead, possibly out a few dollars, but having received just thousands of hours of more high-quality entertainment. It's equally possible, though, that as these platforms splinter and everything becomes exclusive, that we're just going to be paying more for what we're already getting, or even conceivably less than that. Now, that is not what I'm expecting, but the launch of DC Universe really threw me for a loop. Their offerings are very, very spotty right now, and what they have is not great. Their original programming, Titans, it's not doing it for me. Now, of course, I'm looking forward to Doom Patrol and Stargirl and everything else they're going to debut, but they would be foolish to say, hey, we've got our streaming service up. Let's pull everything off of Netflix right now. They'd be insane, because not that many people are yet convinced that it's worth the $7.99 per month. And I, a big fan, am among those people. I'm not ready to make that switch. Now, Disney's going to make it mandatory. Disney likes to throw their weight around. As soon as that streaming service is up, expect every Marvel TV show, movie, etc., again, barring the stuff that Netflix has rights to for the next several years, expect that to vanish. You're going to have to sign up for the Disney streaming service. That cute little mouse is one greedy SOB. I can tell you that as a lifelong New Yorker. When Disney came into New York City, what was once a just breeding ground for pornography, sleaze, and drugs became like Disney World East. When Disney comes to town, they don't F around. And look at that. I'm a poet and I didn't even know it. So my point is the streaming wars are heating up and we've already got some losers. That would be those of us like myself who've enjoyed and who've rooted for the Marvel Netflix series. And of course, the cast and crew of all these series. This has got to be very difficult for them. And I'm sorry. And I hope that things go better for all of us and that these streaming services are going to provide opportunity and won't cause any of us to go broke. Nobody wants that. So great talking to you as always. Get in touch with the Matt Sager podcast any way you like. You can use email. That's quick and simple. matt@mattsager.com. You can also phone 646-535-4788 or hit me up on Twitter where I'm @MattSager. And on Instagram, I'm Real Matt Sager. And over on Facebook, I'm The Matt Sager. My voiceover page there is Matt Sager VO. And this podcast page is Matt Sager Podcast. Also, be sure to check out tonight's podcast episode description. It's got links to my Patreon and my merch page from my friends at wehavemerch.com. And for the rest, more social media links, my voiceover reels, contact information, articles, blog posts, and much more. You can find that at mattsagervoiceover.com.